Hello, this is going to be a build video for the Warlock healer. I have pretty much finished out the Warlock for this mod that just dropped earlier this week. There's a few things that I'm probably planning on switching, but it's for the most part completed. So, I'll just start with gear first. We have the Enchanted Brigand helmet. This you can buy and upgrade it from the M27 store and the Demon Web Pit store, both campaigns. We use this in combination with the boots, which I'll talk about in a second, because the Regent helmet from Master Temple of the Spider does not stack with the boots, so you're better off just slotting in this maximum soul weave helmet instead. Of course, we use the debuff chestplate. This is another Brigand piece. It gives a stat decrease aura for all the enemies that are within 10 feet of you. So it's upgraded within the same method as the helmet is. And there's really nothing else to use. This is best in slot by far by anything else. We're still using the arms from the Dragon Hunts. There's just no alternatives. It gives 7.5% power 100% of the time, so it's just too strong not to use. Of course, like I talked about a second ago, we use these new boots. These come from the Master Defense of the Moondancer trial that just came out. You have to run it on either the Warlock or the Bard to get these boots, because they are class specific. They're only in the collections for the class that you are currently on. As you can see, we have Warlock Wizard offensive gear and Bard Warlock healer gear, support gear, which includes these boots. So you have to run it on either two of those classes to get this pair of boots. And it's the same bonus, like I said a second ago, as the temple, the Master Temple of the Spider helmet. It's just potentially much quicker and easier to get. I say potentially because it still relies on drop chance. We are using the weapons from the trial. In the trial you can get an extra 12% healing as a healer, and of course you get that 10% movement speed in the trial. Everywhere else you get 6% healing, and the high item level. It just makes your heals kind of crazy on the Warlock. So of course you could argue to still use the Mastercraft weapons, but in my opinion they're just, since they keep coming out with these new weapons that are just so much stronger and better for support, and DPS don't use Mastercraft anyway, I just feel less and less obligated to use Mastercraft on my support characters, especially on the tank. And the stats on these Mastercraft are also very strong. Crit Severity Forte and Critical Strike. So for a healer, that's all very nice. We use the Merilith set. You can also switch this over to the Vistani set. Both of them give a 5% damage increase. I just typically have Merilith on because it's high item level. We are using this multi-target heal ring from the Master Demon Web Pits dungeon. You can, if you have the ratings, you can switch it out for the Illustrious Grace ring that drops from Master Temple of the Spider. I'll show that in collections real quick. This one, when you cast a damaging AoE that only hits one target, they have 3.5% less defense and awareness, so it's essentially 7.5%-ish damage increase for your team. So I haven't gotten another one, which is why I'm using this, or one of the reasons why, but also I do not have some of the new companion gear because it's not available yet, which is another reason why I need the outgoing healing rating to get my outgoing healing up. I used the new ring from the new trial. This comes from Master Defense of the Moondancer again. It gives 5% outgoing healing, and your teammates get 1% Forte. I'm not sure if this applies to you as well. I'm assuming that it might, but it's only 1%, so it's not that big a deal. So it's pretty much a direct replacement of our previous 5% outgoing healing ring. Either the glowing restoration ring or the Mastercraft one that came out last mod, the scintillant restoration ring. Not that one. And then for our pants, of course, once again, the new pants that, or the new shirt that comes from the trial. This is 7.5% outgoing healing, and also 1.5% increased forte for the team. These come from the advanced version of Moondancer, of course. And you can also get them from the master version, and you can buy it in the store once you get enough currency if you get unlucky with drops. We're still using this covert pants, there's just nothing else to use, and that 5% power is almost 100% uptime because it applies when there's only one person away from you. You don't have to have your full team away from you, which is very nice. And it's still 1600 item level, so it's only 200 less than the newest stuff. So it's still very good. Artifacts, we're using the Demo's Reach for the Forte power, and just because it's unbound, it's easy to get. We're using this one because it's account-wide, and we don't really so much need ratings. We're using the Merilith Mask, of course, for our set bonus, and then the primary one, just switch to whatever debuff you're asked to use. 99% of the time I'm using just the Halaster's Blast Scepter because that's what you're going to probably want to use in dungeons as a healer. Of course, you can also use Dragonbone Blades, the Lantern of Revelation. You can also use that new artifact that came out that's a replacement of the Lantern, which drops from the trial. You can also buy it in the auction house. It's called the... I'm in the wrong category. It's called the Portobello or Portable Spelljammer. It's only 189,000. So it's also an option. It is a replacement for the Lantern, so there's no reason to run the Lantern as well as that if you're doing a 10-man trial. Just FYI. So Halaster Blast Scepter is most of the time what I use. For my enchantments, of course, this is just for stats. So right now I'm using 3 Cobalts and 1 Jade. And then for defensive, you want a combination of Garnets and Amethysts. Let me put another Garnet in. And then we want to use either Jade for outgoing healing if you need it, or a Garnet for the Forte. We're using Lightning Flash, and we're using the movement speed bonus. You can also, of course, use action point gain. I like the hit points one, but you can also use action point gain as well. Both of them are quite cheap, and then, of course, we can also use Devil's Precision. I don't believe I need it right now. I'm 1% off if I don't use it, so I'll just leave it off for now, but eventually I'm gonna have to need to use it, I believe. Alright, now I'll talk about my attributes. So I use all wisdom and all charisma, except I just have 1 point in dexterity, so I cap out my crit severity. You get 0.5% crit severity per point you put into dexterity. Otherwise, you want to do all charisma if possible. You could also opt for all con for the hit points and the AP gain. It's pretty much an option. You definitely want to do all wisdom though, 100%. Now I'll talk about boons. So of course we want to go all power, we want to go crit strike and crit severity, and then all hit points. And then we also want to do the movement speed. And then for our tier 5s, we want to use Forte and outgoing healing first, and then slot in action point gain if you have the points. And then for our master boons, we want to take the 2 far right ones, Blessed, Advantage, and Resilience. And Enhanced Application I just have for the extra little heal over times that I can apply to myself, which is just a little bit extra. You can also put in recharge speed if you have points, although it's not really needed on healers so much, so there's not really any other tier 5 or master boons that I would take. None of them are really very useful. I guess you could take the power one here and the crit severity, but I wouldn't really take any other ones, to be honest. Guild boons, we're using power, defense, Mount speed, movement speed, res sickness, whichever one you need at that current time. I just usually use movement speed because it's nice. Companions as summoned, it's pretty much between the Drizzt, the Tutor, the Spine Devil, or the Black Death Scorpion. So I pretty much, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be on Drizzt, and your tank is going to be on Tutor in dungeons. If there's a single target fight like the last boss in Demo Web Pits, then you can use the Spine Devil. It's also nice. It has a slightly higher damage increase for the team than Drizzt. Or if no one else is on the Scorpion, you can use the Black Death Scorpion instead. It's just pretty much situational. Companion gear, I'm using currently the only stuff that we can use as a healer. This is the new companion gear from the newest mod, Critical Strike and Outgoing Healing. But we are going to be switching those to full outgoing healing when we get the chance. But it's going to take 6 weeks to get that, or well, 4 weeks for me because I did the buyout for the dungeon. Next we just have this in for pretty much the stats or the item level. It doesn't really give any benefit for a healer. We're using dulled senses as a debuff. You can also use armor break or anything, slowed reactions, vulnerability. And then for our companion bonuses, of course, we're always using the Raptor, we're always using the Golden Bullet. And then the other 3 are basically what you need for stats. So I use the Quickling, Outgoing Healing, Crit Strike. I use the Neverwinter Guard because there's nothing else that really gives Outgoing Healing in a good stat. If I had it, then I would use one of the companions that gives Outgoing Healing and Forte. I believe one of them is the Linu companion, and then the last one is the Fawn for Crit Strike Forte. Now for mounts, we're using Runic Aura or Mystic Aura, whichever one you need to go on for the team. Elion or Swarm, whichever power, Pegasus. And then for our collars, of course, we have Outgoing Healing, Movement Speed, Gold Bonus, Critical Severity, and Counter Power Damage. Critical Severity, Movement Speed, and Outgoing Healing are pretty much the main ones you want to look at. The rest of them don't really matter which ones you choose. And Counter Damage and Gold Bonus, doesn't matter. For our bonuses themselves, I use 2 Lionhearts, 1 Menders, 1 Trainers, and 1 Survivalist Expertise. The negative effects from res sickness is not really that big a deal if you have the guild boon that gives revive sickness, so I wouldn't really worry too much. And as for the mounts, these 4 all come from lockboxes, various lockboxes, and then this one comes from the Zen store, the Armored Pale Horse. It's, I believe, a green companion at 200 Zen, just as an FYI. For our insignias, we're primarily using dominances, a few rhythms in there, and a few tranquilities. We're only using these tranquilities because there's no other good healer insignia to use as a crescent. The only other option would be like a skill, or I guess we could use brutalities, I think. But these tranquilities are ultimately what you want to have because of the forte. And then for our enlightened brutalities, there's nothing else to use here, so we have to use brutalities instead. Now I will choose my powers. I retrain, so I have to re-choose real quick. And I'll talk about what these choices are in a second. Okay, so for our at-wills, we're using Infernal Sanction. This is the one that gives one player a shield, 800 magnitude. So if I shield myself, there's a crit. So it's around a 500 to 600,000 shield by myself, but it'll be higher when I have 5 raptors and when I have my stats and everything from procced up. Our other at-will is pretty much just our regular attacking at-will. This one is what you can use to apply the Grace Ring and the Mirrorless set as well. It's very fast attack speed, so you're pretty much always going to have, you know, every time you're not having to heal, you're just spamming this at-will on top of that. Our main heal over time is Vampiric Embrace. It does a large heal when you initially cast it, and then it does a smaller heal over time for 12 seconds. You have to hit an enemy with it. You cannot use it just standing in Protector's Enclave or anywhere else. You see it's not letting me cast it, but if I spawn the boss minion, all of a sudden I can cast it. And I can, you know, do it as many times. So it healed me for 350,000 that one time. Next is Revitalize. This also does a large heal for whoever's in the circle, and it does a smaller heal over time for 12 seconds. The 850 heal magnitude is decreased when the number of targets increase, but the 200 heal over time heal magnitude is not decreased. So it's good to try to have both of these heal over times up at the same time. It also cleanses one effect, so it's very nice for like the last boss Demon Web on the tank or other situations where you might need to cleanse. So essentially we just cast that on the target and we use this on as many people as we can, and try not to use heals unless people actually lose health. It's not very beneficial to use these larger initial heals when no one even needs a heal. Our third power, typically I just use Warlock's Bargain because it gives, I want to say, 20% of your Soul Weave back when you cast it, and it takes away your Life Spark, which I'll show in a second what that actually does. So it pretty much just, you cast it, you have a 24-second cooldown, and as soon as you cast it, you gain that Soul Weave back. So I'll show what that looks like here. I'll just spam a couple skills real quick and then cast it, and there we go, we just get a little burst of Soul Weave back. Class features, you always want to have this one slotted in, Soul Bond. When people are below 50%, they receive a heal every 10 seconds, so it's just a nice little extra. In Trials with another healer, you want to use Borrowed Spirit as the other class feature. This one is just a little bit of extra Soul Weave regeneration passively. If you're in a dungeon, there's really nothing else to use, so you pretty much just use Shadow Walk instead. Which I guess, since this gives 2.5% crit strike now, if we were in a trial, we would have to slot on that other enchantment that I took off a second ago. And then for our feats, we are using pretty much all these feats that I choose are the best ones. This one, when you deal damage, you get Soul Weave regeneration for 6 seconds. You just have to hit the enemy one time with the at-will. Soul Reclamation, when you're below 30% of your maximum Soul Weave, your Life Spark will channel Soul Reclamation, which also increases Soul Weave regeneration. And then when you're struck, you regain 25 Soul Weave every 10 seconds. When healing allies with less than 25% hit points, their healing, or your healing, is increased by 15%. I believe it's just on the heal that you do on them. It's not like a time-based thing. So if people are below 25% hit points, then you get 15% healing on whatever you heal them with. But I believe it's maybe only to that ally. I don't think it's to everybody else. I think it's just to that one person with low hit points. And then the last one, are using Fate Pact. This just gives an extra heal over time when you use Vampiric, Revitalize, or Soulstorm, and in Spirit. Another option, and I would only do this if there are 2 Warlock healers in a trial, but it's to use Hell Pact instead as the last feat. This one will, instead of giving a heal over time, will give a Soul Barrier, which is not very strong. It's about maybe 10% of their hit points when you get the barrier up. So it's weaker than the Infernal Sanction at will, let's just say that. And it's really only used for if you have 2 Warlock healers. And then for our dailies, primarily we use Soul Barrier. This is the one that does the green circle, and it also gives your team a small barrier that is constantly refreshed, so it's nice. And it gives them 10% damage mitigation for 12 seconds, and it does that 250 heal magnitude. The soul barrier that it raises on them will last for 20 seconds, or until it's destroyed, or until it's, until it's taken from that person via damage. The other one is situational as well. Soul Pact. It will do an 800 heal magnitude, and it gives 10% damage mitigation for 10 seconds. You lose a little bit of hit points every second, but that doesn't really matter. So it's basically just a big burst heal for 800 heal magnitude. So like I said, it's mostly situational. If you need to heal everybody that's spread out and they're, you're not going to be able to, you don't have Divinity or something, for example, or Soul Weave, I mean. So now for our mechanics, we have Life Spark. This will cast In Spirit automatically on wounded party members. In Spirit is the skill that it uses, which is it does a 120 heal magnitude initially, and then it does a 60 heal magnitude for 12 seconds. And it has a 2.5 second cooldown. I'm not sure if it can cast this on the same person and they can have multiple stacks of it. I'm assuming they can't. But if there's multiple people, it can cast every 2.5 seconds, and multiple people can have that heal over time on them. So it's basically just extra passive heal over times. It's actually a lot stronger than initially you would think. Life Mark is the tab ability, or the R1 ability. It's when you mark someone, and if you see in the top left, you're the target of your life mark. You can target anyone that's in your group or in the trial, and then you can hold down that tab ability, or R1, and you can heal them for 1000 heal magnitude, I believe, every second. And you just hold it down and it heals them, and it slowly drains your resource, if you see on the left side there. Of course, I'm not in combat, so it keeps going back up, but still. Now I'll look at my stats. I am not buffed up right now, so I use the Forger's Box. It's 3% power. I use the Squash Soup, Flask of Potency, and Wildstorm Elixir. Now if I look at my stats, I am 90% crit severity. I will be, I guess without this, I will be at 89.7% critical strike. And I have a little bit of rating I could get, so technically I could cap it out with the extra rating if I manage to find it somewhere. My power is 65.4%, but that increases by 15% with 5 raptors, plus an extra 2,250 with a runic aura, which I'm using Mystic right now. And then it'll increase by 7.5% with my Dragon Hunter gloves. So that will increase it up to, if not 90, it'll be, 89.5% at least. So, and then my Forte rating is currently 89,000. So I'm almost 65% Forte. And of course, if I had that companion, I would be at 67%, but unfortunately I don't have it, so if it comes around again, I'm probably gonna buy it because it's too expensive right now. For outgoing healing, I'm 80% right now, but I am not in a group with anybody, so that will increase by 4% with 4 more players in the party. plus an extra 6% on this. So that's 4 plus 6, that's 10% more outgoing healing I'm going to get from having 5 players in the party. So that's 90% outgoing healing. 90 crit severity. I could easily get 90% crit strike, and pretty much 90% power, if not 90% power. For my race, of course, I'm just going to mention I'm on the M27 Renegade. You can also use the regular Drow race, or you can really use anything for debuffs. If you don't want to use something like Squash Soup, then you could probably use the Wood Elf. That gives 5% extra crit strike, but crit strike is very easy to get on a Warlock because it's in their forte, so it's not too bad. So I just use the M27 Renegade for the extra debuff it gives to the team, which if I show you real quick. Fairy Fire, when you attack a foe you have a 10% chance to apply for 5 seconds, reduces their defense by 3% and damage of their attacks by 3%. So it's basically a little 3% extra damage buff for the party when it's up. And I mean, that's pretty much everything. I am still working on getting gear for my other classes that I play, so since I finished the Warlock, I figured I might as well showcase what you're kind of looking for this mod and what I managed to obtain. So I'll probably sooner or later come out with a Bard video, and I'm almost done with my fighter tank, so I'm probably going to be coming out with one of those maybe sometime this week. And then my wizard, I still need a lot of stuff in there because I haven't played that in the trial yet, so I don't have the gear yet. But I might also be coming out with a tank video, or a barbarian tank video. I have built up my barbarian a little bit from ages ago, so look for a couple of those videos in the coming weeks. Like I said, I'm not quite done with this character, but I'm pretty much where I want it right now. I mostly just need to tweak the ratings a little bit once I get new companion gear after that is accessible. So I hope this helped anyone that's trying to build up a healer or a warlock specifically. So thanks for watching.